It's good to have you on the news tonight. Thanks for obliging us. How do you respond to Onanuga's criticism of Adesina's assessment? Do you agree with Adesina in the first place about Nigeria's progress or retrogression, as you may like to define it?
To be very honest, I see Onanuga's intervention and response as very infantile. And it's not, in fact, if I am Mr. President, I would have fired him because his response was so infantile and never addressed any of the issues. Akinwumi Adesina, on record, is one of the most decorated technocrats to come out of Nigeria. He was a minister in Nigeria, and we saw his impact as Minister for Agriculture. He was one of the champion ministers under the Jonathan's regime. Of course, we saw his achievements and engaged him to become the president of African Development Bank. Every of his observations apt, correct, and it's not something anybody can begin to play infantile games on. I want to even break it down further. As of 1970, the GDP of South Korea was $3.9 billion. Nigeria GDP was about $9.3 billion. Nigeria GDP was about $12.4 billion. 1970. As of 1980, we are at par with South Korea. Today, South Korea GDP, 58 million people, is $1.71 trillion. Nigeria GDP is less than $200 billion. What any sane person will have expected Adenuga to do was to address the kernel of the issue. The problem did not start with the Tinubu regime. A very creative, honest, sincere spokesperson for the government will have simply acknowledged that what Akinwumi Adesina said was correct. Then take out to trace the origin. It did not start with the Tinubu regime. Buhari was the one who wrecked Nigeria before Tinubu inherited the mess. What he would have done was honestly and sincerely acknowledge the rot. Yes, Adesina was right in his submissions. What he would have done was, yes, Adesina, you are right. Look at the issues. Look at what brought us where we are. Look at what we are doing to correct the situations. And people will understand it. Trying to draw the infantile line Adesina will be like in his submission. In fact, if I am Tinubu, I will have fired by Onanuga. But anyway, we are in Nigeria. We are incompetence, where mediocrity is elevated over competencies and excellence.
All right.
I align 100% into it.
He is a spokesman for the presidency, and like you rightly pointed out, Dr. Adesina also has a pedigree that should be respected. But talk to us about the economic indicators that support Dr. Adesina's claims.
See, let me be upfront with you. I was looking at the records. As at February 15th, 2015, I saw the receipt of one of my subordinates who traveled from Lagos to Onitsha. He spent 3,500 to ride from Onitsha to Lagos to Onitsha, GEO Motors. Today, to move from Lagos to Onitsha, you have to spend 52,000 naira. A bag of rice when Buhari became president, 50 kg was 8,500. Today is about 90,000 to 100,000. Every economic indicator as measured by the agent looks south. They are all going south. There's nothing to write about. See, and of course, sincerely, nobody can wholly blame Tinubu for what the mess is. You know, I'm an employer of labor. I always, one of the ways that I speak to my subordinates, please look at the issue. There's nothing like an honest, there's nothing wrong in admitting an honest mistake. Tinubu was very sincere when he removed subsidy. I want to believe it. Tinubu was very sincere when he decided to remove the criminal arbitrage regime that was there under Buhari, when you had official market rate at 430 naira to $1, and then the parallel market at 720. That created room for people to criminally cream out and round trip Nigerian and destroy the Nigerian value of the naira. But basically, what he did not do in removing subsidy, in devaluing the currency, he never looked at reducing cost of governance and ensuring our productivity in the rail sector. I expect a buyer Onanuga. If I am to be the spokesman of the Tinubu government, I will have clearly, honestly admitted Adesina is correct. But this is what led us to where we are. Articulating it clearly from 1990 now, and this is what we are doing to right the wrongs. But unfortunately, just like anything in Nigeria,
All right. I wanted you to speak to the comparison between Adesina, describing Adesina as a politician and comparing him in the rhetorics that he put forward to the Labour Party presidential candidate in the previous election, Peter Obi. Some had said that that was not such a complimentary remark in the way it was put. What's your response to Adesina in this sense being tagged as perhaps having a political agenda?
Adesina does not have any political agenda, and for crying out loud, there is nothing Peter Obi has said that is not the truth. Peter simply said, to make Nigeria work. See, the problem we have is not the issue of spending, but the issue we have is the issue of purposeless and criminal spending. There was a World Bank assisted global integrated development master plan that was developed in 2007 that clearly stated that for Nigeria to be able to move from the current poverty-stricken fourth world level to second world level, we need to have $3 trillion capital investment over the next 30 years, $100 billion investment into the critical sectors of Nigeria. P2B simply said the same thing Adesina said, and P2B has always been very consistent. The problem we have is not the problem of spending or borrowing. The problem is the criminal spending and criminal borrowing. Nigeria needs at least $100 billion capital investment, sustained, consistent.
Okay. I think we've lost Dr. Obiariei. Okay, Doctor, just one last one before we go. I know you've alluded to it already, but I just need you to expand a little more. How has Nigeria's political structure impacted its progress and, by extension, the economy under discourse now?
The problem we have in Nigeria is that we have mostly round peg in square holes. This country does not lack the natural resources, the human capital, and all the mix required to make it a first world economy. From 1960s, we were expected to, within the next 20 years, to be rubbing shoulders with the likes of the USSR and the USA. We are where we are today because of paucity of good leadership and poor followership. If we want to make progress, we must be very sincere. We are not where we're supposed to be. Today, if Nigeria was to grow at the same pace as South Korea, today we'll be talking about a $2.7 trillion economy. As of 1990, we're at par with Brazil. Today, Brazil has over $2.2 trillion economy. We have less than 200 billion. Nigeria can actually be a $1 trillion economy over the next 2, 4, 5 years. But Mr. President must be sincere. He needs to fire a lot of people within his cabinet. In fact, 80% of the cabinet of Bola Tinubu should go. They are not even helping him. Bola Tinubu is not the cause of Nigerian wars. Nigeria started decaying in 2015. Buhari is actually the albatross of Nigeria. I expect those who work with him to be sincere. Look, sir, if I am them, I will have asked Adesina. So tell us, sit down with us, tell us what you think we can do to salvage the economy. Trying to ravage or destroy Adesina, paint him in the P2B has been very consistent. In fact, let me tell you the truth. If these people who work with President Tinubu are sincere, and they've implemented the things Adesina and P2B have many times advocated, Nigeria will not be where we are today. But the problem we have leak-spittling clowns. I will use the word clowns, leak-spittling clowns, like the one
I get your point. I think
who said that Tinubu will get 70%. On what basis?
Yeah, what you've said is what some analysts have also put on the table, that the government should consider reducing the cost of governance and, of course, maybe reshuffling a cabinet. Thank you very much for speaking with us.